On May 28, 1973, a group of 9 individuals, including a family of 4, embarked on a daring 2-day diving expedition in Mount Gambier, South Australia, venturing into the depths of the shaft sinkhole. Their ambitious goal was to break the world record by diving an astounding 250 feet. 4 of these intrepid divers plunged into the unknown abyss of a cave, its vastness resembling that of a football field. As they navigated the western edge of the tunnel, the effects of nitrogen narcosis began to take hold, inducing sensations akin to those caused by alcohol. Maneuvering through the murky waters, stirred up by silt, the 4 divers struggled to reach their target depth in a space barely sufficient for 2. What unfolded next is the deadliest cave diving disaster ever recorded in the 1970s. Welcome to What Went Wrong. This is the tragic story of the shaft sinkhole. In the context of 1973, scuba divers were reliant on traditional air cylinders for deep dives, as mixed gases for recreational diving had not yet been introduced, and the technical science of diving was still in its early stages. At that time, divers faced limitations in depth due to the impact of nitrogen narcosis. As divers descended to greater depths, the heightened pressure caused nitrogen in the air to be absorbed into the bloodstream, leading to a narcotic effect comparable to alcohol intoxication. This phenomenon, known as nitrogen narcosis, posed significant risks, particularly when navigating through underwater tunnels at depths of 200 feet. The absence of advanced gas mixtures and technical diving protocols heightened the dangers associated with exploring such depths. Now, what happened in that tunnel? On the second day of the expedition, Christine, Stephen, John, and a 4th diver named Gordon Roberts devised a plan to explore the tunnel section situated on the western edge of the cave and achieve the remarkable depth of 250 feet. Their intention was to quickly descend and ascend without lingering at that depth, with the aim of establishing a new diving record. Regrettably, the dynamics of cave diving presented challenges vastly different from those of open-water scuba diving. Christine, John, Stephen, and Gordon were on the verge of encountering these formidable limits head-on. Christine Millett, an exceptional talent at the age of only 19, had been immersed in the world of diving for nearly 15 years. Raised by her father, a professional diver in Australia, she, along with Stephen and Glenn, were bona fide scuba diving experts in the spring of 1973. Each of them had attained the highest scuba qualification available, and Christine held the prestigious title of the New South Wales Scuba Champion at that time. Their expertise and qualifications marked them as seasoned professionals in the realm of underwater exploration. On the first day of their dive, the group descended a line from the entrance to the top of the rock pile, which would be the only line set for the day. 8 divers ventured around the main cavern, covering approximately half the distance before concluding their exploration. The 9th diver remained at the surface to oversee supplies and safety. Robert Smith, the president of the diving club, boasted over 20 prior dives in the shaft and felt comfortable with the chamber they were investigating. Initially, everything seemed to proceed normally. The group entered the water and swiftly descended to the room's floor, passing the rock pile. However, Robert soon began to experience lightheadedness due to nitrogen narcosis. Recognizing the symptoms as an experienced diver, he promptly ascended to a safer depth, responding proactively to mitigate the effects of nitrogen narcosis. After exploring the base for a while, Glenn realized his time was running out. Trailing just behind his sister and the rest of the group, he reached out to tap her shoulder, signaling that their allotted time was nearly over. However, before his touch could reach her, she and the others surged forward, going over the ledge at the room's edge. The ledge descended into a tunnel passage, but Glenn wasn't overly concerned. He presumed they were taking a quick glance and would soon ascend. As each diver followed their planned course, some ascended toward the surface, with a few making decompression stop before emerging. One by one they surfaced, but only 4 of them appeared. This raised immediate concern over the next minute or so. Given that they all began with the same air supply, the falling numbers intensified the urgency of the situation. Time had run out, and the missing divers added a sense of alarm to the unfolding events. In an effort to locate the missing divers, some of the team descended again, even going over the ledge in their search. However, all they found at the bottom were Stephen's camera and flashlight. The discovery left them in disbelief, grappling with a situation that seemed too surreal to be true. Despite the grim evidence, they clung to the hope that perhaps there was a pocket of trapped air, or some way the missing divers could still be alive. The uncertainty and the desperate search for any sign of their companions added an intense tension to the already dire circumstances. This is what happened in that tunnel. As Christine and her companions reached the ledge, suspended over the abyss, they took a moment to gather their bearings. Aware of the risks involved in breathing normal air at such depths, Christine was determined to act swiftly, minimizing the time spent at this profound depth. She understood the dangers of nitrogen narcosis and was prepared to manage its effects, maintaining focus on the task and maintaining slow, measured breaths. At the target depth, the air becomes compressed, requiring 7 times more air per breath than at the surface. Even under optimal conditions, Christine's air supply would deplete rapidly, lasting only a matter of minutes. With her brother and cousin by her side, she trusted in their collective expertise to achieve the 250-foot depth record. The trio descended into the depths of the tunnel, commencing around 200 feet. To reach the targeted depth of 250 feet, they would have to navigate over 300 linear feet down the progressively narrowing tunnel. The challenges ahead were formidable, and the stakes were high as they ventured into uncharted depths. As they progressed, each member of the group likely experienced a growing sense of apprehension. Their air supply was dwindling, and the effects of narcosis were likely setting in. Yet, these challenges were not the true limiting factors. It was the silt. Unfamiliar with this obstacle, the movement of 4 divers in such a confined space stirred up settled silt into a chaotic cloud of sand plumes that would take hours, if not days, to settle. The silting drastically reduced visibility to less than an arm's length, marking a perilous turning point. Without guidelines in place, navigating a way out became a daunting task. Christine, checking her air supply, realized she wouldn't make it to 250 feet. However, turning back was far from a simple feat. Swimming through the silt cloud, there was no certainty about the direction leading back to the rock pile. On a cloudy day, the tunnel offered no view of the main entrance hole, intensifying the challenge of finding their way back in the murky depths. The situation had escalated to a critical point, and the divers were confronted with the harsh reality of the perilous environment they had encountered. In her attempt to navigate through the silty haze, Christine extended her hand, only to encounter rock formations that could either be the wall of the passage or boulders on the floor. With the entire tunnel filled with silt, orientation became an impossible task. Christine's oxygen levels were dangerously low, and the prospect of making it back to the surface seemed almost unattainable if she could find the way out. In a last-ditch effort to discern the passage's direction, she ascended swiftly toward the ceiling, attempting to clear the silted bottom. Gordon, too, was engaged in the same struggle, both divers making their way up towards the ceiling of the passage. In the dimly lit tunnel, their flashlights swept frantically up and down, then back and forth, desperately searching for any sign that could guide them in the right direction. The dire circumstances had pushed them to the brink, with time running out and the elusive exit shrouded in uncertainty. In this crucial moment, there were rough rocks sticking out in different directions from the upper part of the tunnel, so there wasn't a smooth surface to easily move upwards. Christine and Gordon didn't realize it, but they were stuck in a fake dome in this part of the tunnel. Once inside, they both turned around and felt the rocks, trying to find a way up. Imagine feeling the rocks on the ceiling and walls all around you in a hurry, desperately trying to find an exit. All of this is happening while feeling scared and blinded by the cloudy, sandy water. At this point, they couldn't figure out which way was east or west. The only thing they knew was they were at the top of the tunnel because bubbles gathered in the many cracks, though it wasn't enough to save them. The frantic nature of their efforts rapidly depleted the remaining air, and sadly, they would not get out of that dome together. They ran out of air, became hypoxic, and eventually sank down to the passage floor. During this time, John was seen quickly swimming with a purpose farther down the wrong way inside the tunnel. He was very likely suffering from nitrogen narcosis as he swam deeper into the abyss. Stephen had turned around as well, but he was ahead of Christine and Gordon. He too was running out of air and struggled to orient himself with no rope to guide through the opaque waters. He was later found with his buoyancy vest inflated. This would have been a last-ditch emergency method to get himself to the surface when his air was gone. Unfortunately, he was caught up on an outcropping of rocks and never made it to the surface. Despite the extensive efforts of surviving divers and law enforcement, it took over 11 months to find and recover the 4 lost divers. It was difficult to fathom that even some of the most well-trained scuba divers could lose their lives in a sinkhole. In the aftermath of this tragic incident, new standards started to be put in place, particularly for cave diving. The experience served as a sobering reminder of the inherent risks involved and prompted a re-evaluation of safety protocols within the diving community.